Hello everyone, and welcome to the showdown between the dinosaurs, who are going to be led by a banana slan, and the Skaven, who are going to be led by the filthiest of all rats, Lord Skrolk. So without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So as far as the build goes, we're going to be going with a bit of a lawnmower build using the Saurus in the front line, who of course have very good weapon strength at 52. One of the downsides of the Saurus being is that they do have relatively low combat stats. They have 29 melee attack and 34 melee defense. But with the Banana Slan, he does have a very nice ability, the Banana Slan being the Lore of Light Slan. He has the Barona's Time Warp, so this is going to give them speed, which isn't super pertinent in this matchup, but it does give 26 melee attack in a massive AoE radius. So it can put the melee attack of the Saurus up pretty damn high, and that in conjunction with their weapon strength definitely makes them pretty lethal. So whole front line is going to be Saurus. We have one group of Croxigors here, and the Croxigors got their spanking paddles. They're definitely pretty solid against like Stormvermin and Elite Skaven infantry, so that's why I bring them. Sometimes against Dinosaur, Skaven like to go with Mass Stormvermin with like halberds or the sword and board version to fend off the Saurus with their armor. So I thought bringing one Croxigor wouldn't hurt. Up here we do have the ancient, not the ancient Stegodon, but the regular Stegodon, and he does have the long range ballista on his back, so 360 range, and it's very good at sniping down enemy artillery pieces. So if they have warp lightning cannons, plague claw catapults, he can basically just sit there with his ballista and slowly take it out, which is definitely quite powerful. We also have a Rev Crystal who's going to be healing up in the front line, also a pretty cheap terror-causing option. On the flanks, we have a couple of groups of the Chameleon Skinks, which are very good against the rats. They can take out Rat Ogres, Helpit Abominations, pretty good at kiting down Plague Mugs and other lightly armored Skaven troops, so I like those guys quite a bit. We got some Skink cohorts on the flanks, two groups of Cold Spear Riders to help us with our anti-large problem. And of course, the rats tend to go pretty large against the dinosaurs, and that is pretty much it. So for my opponent's force, he does have a front line of the Clan Rats, so going very chaffy here in the front line. These guys are obviously going to get spanked pretty bad by Saurus, but nonetheless, they're just there to be sacrificed to the lizard gods over here. Aside from that, he does have a couple of groups of Plague Mugs. Plague Mugs are pretty good against Saurus. I mean, Saurus aren't terribly heavily armored. 60 isn't bad, but still, these guys do pretty good damage against lightly armored targets. They have a bonus first infantry, so I like that quite a bit. He's got a couple of groups of Rat Ogres. Two Helpit Abominations is going to be really, really tough to take down. And he does have Lord Skrolk, so he was definitely prepared for the big dinos. And I did bring a couple, unfortunately. So the Stegodon's large. My Banana Slan is also quite thick as well. And then we do have the Bastillodon, who is large. So he's got some good targets. So guys, let's get this show on the road. So right now I'm going to be squaring up in the river. I do have the aquatics advantage on a couple of units. So if we did decide to fight in the water, when my skinks wanted to get down and dirty, they would not suffer a penalty from the water, which is pretty cool. But nonetheless, it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to square up right here. I have the range advantage, so I can force this Skaven to go in. So that's what I'm going to be counting on here. In the meantime, I'm sending one group of skinks up and around the back, and the other group of skinks will be going around as well. There's no like vanguard or sneaky business here from the Skaven. They're just going with like pure brute force. So the Skaven are going to be pushing right up through the middle, and they definitely have a pretty damn aggressive front line with those Plague Monks plus the Rat Ogres and Hellpits and Skrolk. I think, is that going to be Big Daddy Skrolk? I think it is going to be Skrolk. And he's going to be just using summons, it looks like, and the Blessed with Filth, which is going to be giving poison and some nice combat buffs to the front line. So, Saurus are waiting here pretty patiently. The Ballista is going to be shooting in at the Hell Pit, but yeah, no really good target. So the Stegodon is mainly just going to be a brutish unit in the front line to rout infantry. Not too many good targets as it pertains to its Ballista. It doesn't seem that it does a whole lot of damage against these guys. So Saurus in the front line are going to be charging in against the Clan Rats, and this is definitely going to favor my Saurus here. I do meet him in the water a little bit, which was a mistake. I probably should have, although it's kind of like right on the edge. Like, yeah, it looks like I am in the water. So I should have stayed back, but, I don't know, just felt a little schleppy. So I was like, I might as well get in there and fight. So the Saurus are going to be charging in. The other Saurus here are going to charge in as well. And there's going to be some AoE magic going down here from from my Slan. So the Barona's Time Warp going down. And I noticed he had a huge blitz over here, just massive amounts of Rat Ogres and other troops. So the Croxigors are coming in with their spanking paddles, and it is going to get down and dirty here in the pit. That Barona's Time Warp, of course, giving those really juicy combat stats. And the Skinks, realizing there's nothing to really kite or pressure, I'm just going to pull them back and use them like standard archers. And from here, the Skinks are just going to be shooting at Hellpit Abominations pretty much this entire game. In the back, I am doing some rear charging with the Cold One Knights, and the Aquatics is coming into play. So these little Skinks are going to be fighting in the water, rushing into the back of the Skaven formation, and also getting some, a little bit of a rear charge, lowering the leadership by, typically when you rear charge something in the back, it lowers it by like 14 or so. Can't really remember. I think it's like 14 or 15, but Skinks doing a pretty good job just disrupting the formation, but this whole front part of the battle is going pretty, I would say it's going okay. You can see that the Skaven slaves and some of the chaff are being beaten up. My Saurus are being worn down. His Rat Ogres are in pretty good shape, and I feel like this whole flank is going to buckle here in a moment as it's getting a little bit heavy. In the middle, you can see rear charges coming in from the Cold One Spear Riders, just kind of lancing into the rats, just trying to pin them in the river here. My opponent does have Rat Ogres, and yes, Rat Ogres do lose head-to-head against Cold One Spear Riders, but with enough mass, they hit hard, they have good armor piercing, they can cause quite a bit of drama. In the back, the Chameleon Skinks are still just shooting in and going after the big targets. The Slan has had to fall back a little bit. He was getting chased by Rat Ogres. This entire pocket, just absolute anarchy. I did get a really good banishment back there, which broke a couple of groups of those infantry. But nonetheless, it looks like he's flooding through. And also Big Daddy Skrolk is going to be summoning some Clan Rats right here, which is going to force my Chameleons back. And the orange sherbet Slan, or not orange sherbet, I'm so used to using the orange sherbet one, but the banana Slan is going to roam forward here and hopefully shut down these clan rats. In the front line, my Stegodon was taking quite a beating from the double Helpet Abomination, so I'm going to be pulling him back, and I'm also pulling back my Bastillodon. Just going to let the Saurus continue to fight and just grind it out here. But Blessed with Filth on Plague Monks, plus these just monsters and Rat Ogres everywhere is definitely pretty damn nasty. In the back, my Skinks, as well as the Coldland Spear Riders getting the shield of the old ones off in this big battle, continue to just come in here and fight the Rat Ogres, but it seems like they're slowly getting dragged down pretty badly, and even though the Rats look like they're buckling on many fronts, they're always rallying. I mean, the Skaven have a trait. I think it's called like run away or flee and something. I don't know. They run faster when they're broken, so they can rally a little bit easier and not be chased off. So the Rat Ogres here do get fended off by the Saurus. The Aura of Pretzel going down to give armor and melee defense to my troops. And you can see here some of these guys are getting a little bit beat up. The Assassin taking some of those spanking paddles from the Croxor here, so that's looking pretty good. And yeah, it's just a very messy pit fight, but you can see my Saurus and Skinks are just swarming in. But the big deal is going to be the Hellpit Abominations. They're both somewhat healthy. Hellpit Abominations do, of course, regenerate, but what's really nice is my Skinks have had free fire this entire time. So I'm basically just falling back and trying to protect them with the Stegodon, the Bastillodon, just shooting at these guys, hoping to eventually drag them down. I do use a net on one of the Hellpit Abominations. He was trying to chase off my big Dino here, so that's the reason why I ended that bad boy down. But the Croxcores, honestly, have been doing pretty good. I mean, even though there were no Stormvermin for them to fight, they're relatively mobile, they have high mass, they're able to kind of move around, and whenever like a new group of Skaven rallies or comes back to the battlefield, they're able to kind of intercept them and do some pretty good work. So I've been quite happy about how the Croxcores have been performing. Unfortunately, though, they are going to be out of control, rampaging to the hordes of Skaven that are pressuring them. In the back, my Stegodon has fallen back, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to use my Ballista and start shooting and just try and work down these Hellpits, but the Saurus and everyone else in here are getting a little bit beat up. Skrulk is here, so he probably has a couple summons to kind of support with. But the bounce power is pretty darn even. A little bit in my favor, but the Skaven could certainly, claw their way back into this one with their filthy little rat claws. Some Rat Ogres coming in over here from the rally. Looks like they rallied over here in the forest, and they're going to be trying to pressure the Skinks, but that's what's really nice about having this big monster. I'm able to tear out the Rat Ogres, so of course, even the Skaven monsters don't have the best leadership. A little scary over here. Trophy Heads is going to be going down from the Skaven Assassin. Hellpit Abomination getting some nice spanks here on the Slan, but he does open himself up a little bit with the overextend to being shot down by the Chameleons, who of course have pretty short range. But the Hellpit Abomination down to 423 HP. He's getting pretty damn low, but it looks like he does get the too horrible to die. So unfortunately, he's going to be healing up. And the thing is, I don't really have the resources to chase him off the battlefield. Also, Skrulk and the Assassin are pressuring in. You can see some of these Summoned Clan Rats actually doing a really good job just fending off my Skinks and pushing them back into the forest. So very, very well played there, just keeping that pressure on my back line. Saurus in the front continuing to grind it out, and it looks like they finally have kind of won this engagement here. There's just a massive tide of Saurus and Coldland Riders on Skrulk, but a nice rear charge coming in from the Rat Ogres is definitely going to help relieve some of that pressure, but nonetheless, Big Daddy Skrulk is in a pretty desperate pit fight right here, but he might be able to do something with all these Rat Ogres coming back in. So Rat Ogres getting a beautiful charge. Saurus are actually shaken, and when Saurus are shaken, things are pretty scary because they have really good leadership. We're going to be sending in the Spanking Paddles with their anti-infantry to help out, and won't be too great against the Rat Ogres, but nonetheless, they still hit hard. And oh man, that Saurus really just took a pounding right there from the Rat Ogre. But yeah, we're continuing to fight and brawl, and you can see there's actually a bit of a mass rout. So the Saurus Warriors and a lot of these guys starting to run off, and the Skaven are just coming back in droves. And the bounce power is a little bit in my favor, but still just kind of keeps teetering back and forth and back and forth. And unfortunately, there is a Hellpit Abomination back here, so he's going to be coming after my Stegodon, who I've basically just been using as a ballista to keep him safe, but the Hellpit Abomination, I did not notice this. So he sneaks back in here, he gets a nice little attack on the Stegodon, but I do have some elements nearby that can hopefully help, and if my memory serves, I think I moved my Skinks over here to help out as well. So in the main fight, I'm going to be moving in the Slan just to give the leadership, and also he has some nice AoE effects like the Banishment, and of course the, what is that called, the Aura of Pretzel, which is quite nice. And he does have basically like a mini Buna effect. I forget what that item's called. It's like this bloody necklace thing. Let's go ahead and find out. The Blood Statuette of Spite. So the Chameleon Skinks are going to be rotating over. The Hellpit Abomination did some pretty good work, but I was able to net it with my Banana Slan, put him in his place there. And you can see the Coldland Spear Riders going to be bravely intercepting, but they do get broken off, of course. Ironic. I mean, at that point, you got to give him a break, right? But the Hellpit Abomination, pretty damn low, taking that skink fire. The Ballista is also shooting at him, and the Orange Slan is ready to party if he's ready to party. Banishment going down as well on top of the Rat Ogres, but it's not going to do as much as it would against like infantry. And the other Hellpit Abomination unfortunately did come back, so even though the game looks like it's pretty heavily in my favor, I mean, these Hellpits can really just come back and generate value. But thankfully for me, that one, how did that thing even die? Maybe the Ballista was shooting at it. I don't, maybe the Skinks. I didn't even see what killed that. But a bunch of Rat Ogres and Skrulk are going to be pressuring into the back line, and my Skinks are kind of my lifeline to killing that Hellpit Abomination. Thankfully, I was able to break him. I don't think he's going to break off the battlefield, and he is almost at his healing cap, but no, he actually comes back, and that's still 3,000 HP, which is pretty substantial. But even though this Skaven have a pretty potent little force here, I still have a lot of big monsters. My Bastillodon's here, Stegodon's still going strong with the Rev Crystal and Baroness Time Warp going down, and it's potentially going to just, tear out all these guys. And there's a couple Saurus still fighting. Rat Ogres are doing their best, but the Brave Dinosaurs are starting to chop those guys down. So very well played to my opponent. That was definitely a very back and forth grindy game. I mean, a very headstrong Skaven build. The Rat Ogres are pretty aggressive and they hit like trucks. They were actually able to fend off my Coldon Riders pretty efficiently with the support of Chaff. And also the Help It Abominations, always pretty good against dinos. I mean, if the dinos go super wide, they're going to be a little bit less effective. But in my case, I did bring two or three, or I guess if you're counting my cavalry, I had like 5 large units, right? So there's plenty of targets for the Help It Abominations. They also give you that terror in the front line, and memory serves, I do not believe Saurus are immune to psychology. But the Saurus did a really good job, 90, 71, 107, 77. With that Baroness Time Warp, those guys fought like damn hard in the middle, and Saurus can actually tear down like Rat Ogres and even do some decent DPS against Help It Abominations, simply because they do really good damage against, 52 weapon strength is heavy metal. I mean, if you look at like Depth Guard for the Vampire Coast, those guys, like, you see how fast they evaporate things, and they have 77, which isn't that big of a difference from Saurus. So Saurus, especially when you buff their melee attack with the Banana Slan, can really do a ton of work in the front line. So and for my opponent's build, I liked it quite a bit. Honestly, I think there was just a couple instances in which the game could have gone either way. Big Daddy Skrulk did a good job, but of course, his forces did falter a little bit in the Clan Rat department and left him a little bit surrounded by Saurus, and from there, I think he got beaten down. But the summons were really good, just kept pressuring my skinks, and yeah, it was troublesome for sure. So very well played to my opponent, the Flying Taco. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Banana Slan game. We will see you guys next time. Take care.